This week we're doing an extract of the Prelude by William Wordsworth. It is just an extract. The Prelude itself is a much larger poem, it's much longer. So in that sense it's important to think about the previous lines, the context of this poem, what's happening right before that sets up this line, who is her, what's going on there. Her is this little boat that the narrator finds somewhere tied to a tree. He randomly comes across this boat and he decides in this poem, in this extract, that he's going to row along the lake, and he sees this big mountain and he gets very scared. And that's the whole poem. The kind of broader context of this poem, its literary context, is the Romantic movement, Romanticism. Poets like Wordsworth and his friends, Shelley, were interested in this idea of the sublime, the mighty, uncontrollable, terrible, awe-inspiring power of nature that we can't fully understand. It's both frightening and exciting at the same time. We get that kind of experience with this really scary mountain that the narrator comes across. I really like this idea of just a randomly chosen point that the narrator sets his sights on and wants to row towards. It's kind of, he fixes his view on this chosen point here, but really just going with his impulses, his gut instinct. He's just decided, he chooses this specific point and he wants to row there. There's a sense of freedom and kind of wandering in that. He's under no obligations to go anywhere. The use of devices in this poem is really interesting. The glittering idly meaning lazily, that's a human characteristic. Upreared its head, giving the mountain its own kind of power to uprear. And actually that's, if we think about that, that's from the narrator's perspective as he's going round a bend and he sees this huge mountain rise. From his perspective, it can seem like the mountain itself is just rising out of nowhere, and that's kind of scary for the narrator. These two examples, though, I'm quite interested in, like a living thing and as if with voluntary power instinct. These are two similes, two examples of personification as well. But there are also definitions of personification in a weird way. Personification is when we compare inanimate objects, like this craggy steep, with a living thing, with living men down here as well. It's when we enliven nature, we give nature its own voluntary power, a will of its own, like a human being. And in that sense, even though this narrator is just a solitary, lonely guy rowing on a lake, he also feels like he's not alone. That kind of feeds into this simile here, like a swan. He feels integrated in nature. He's one of the animals. In a cheesy way, he's kind of at one with nature. And so he's not just a normal human being intruding on the environment anymore. This light imagery here with the black desertion, the darkness, the dim sense of something. You could say that the darkness and the dimness symbolizes ignorance, just not knowing the awesome power of nature. We can't fathom it, we can't fully understand it. And I really like this last line as well. It opens with day and it ends with night, with dreams. I thought I'd end this video with a top tip. You can split the poem up when you're writing an essay about this poem into two sections. Before this and after this. Before this, you've got the row, and after, you've got him thinking about the row after the row, in retrospect, in the aftermath. So if you're writing and you need a way to kind of tackle sections one by one, that could be a good way to go about it. Thank you for watching, guys.